Hello, everyone, and welcome to Refresh. I love this word, the concept, and this gathering. When we come together every other week for a time to connect, to be inspired, to learn something new, and ultimately feel a bit better about the time we spend together. Refreshed. And about feeling better in time spent together, last night we hosted a quarterly event that we do locally called No Friends. It's a funny name, I know, but one might be a little off-putting to some, perhaps. But when we explain it's about turning a situation of no friends into new friends, the reaction is always positive. And last night we brought together 12 women, ages 20 to 85, total strangers when they walked in the door, and totally connected by the time they left. Truly, new friends, committed to helping each other, smiles all around, and there was magic in the air. And as I cleaned up the kitchen and reflected on the evening, I came to this happy space. Like it just was good. And it's because we have so much opportunity to truly help each other. And it's not that hard. It takes some effort, but not that hard. You just have to be willing to take the leap. And one of my favorite moments was when a woman walked in and said, "Hi, my name is, I don't know why I'm here or how I was invited, but I am here." And all I could do is smile at her. And I guess it's always my takeaway and what the work of Generation W truly is for all of us, especially for me. It's so much about how we show up. And when you show up to learn, when you're open to be inspired and to connect, well, you know what? The magic does happen. And that is exactly what happens when Daphne Jones stepped into my life. When one of my best friends calls, or any of your best friends calls and says, "Thought you should meet this woman and she should meet you." What's the answer? Of course. I felt like the woman in my kitchen, probably both of us did. Not sure who or why we were there, but we were there, open and ready to connect. You see, the essence of Daphne is rich and deep and committed. She joined us at Generation W, the Positiveness Possible, this year back in March, at the end of March, wow, and delivered an amazing workshop on Win When They Say You Won't. The title of her book, by the way, which I have here and marked up pretty well. There's so much really good inspirational information and tactical and actionable stuff. Daphne's a highly regarded global executive, business advisor, digital strategist, and has led organizations and people to go further than they ever imagined, including my mom at her workshop who said, "I love this woman. We are connected, Donna." And I'm thinking, if she can connect with my mom like that, more power to all of us. She's worked at companies, a former SVP and Chief Information Officer, 30 years of experience. I know she started when she was 10 for sure. At IBM, Johnson & Johnson, a former Pfizer company called Hospira, and General Electric. She now sits on several corporate boards, and now, finally, she can claim one of her life goals. She's a successful author, The Will to Win. It's so fantastic, Daphne, that you can take some time and be with us today. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And it is an honor. You are one of the most positive, inspiring, refreshing people that I have had the pleasure of meeting. And all you got to do is say, "Hey, Daphne." And I'm like, the answer is yes.
Oh, I love that, right? And isn't that great when we can build all that connection about the answer is yes, right?
That's
Someone
it.
can send an email. All right, let's start at yes, and we'll move from there. And conversation, all great, which I think actually is at the heart of this book. And I think why a lot of people are joining us today and why they so loved your talk is because you, underneath the will to win, is about convincing all of us how we should say yes.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think that it starts with a decision. Winning is a decision. Deciding to win is the decision. And I always say to folks, you need to act like you don't have a choice but to win. And if you act like you don't have a choice but to win, then the universe will conspire to help you to do just that. But it starts with our decision to say yes and to say we're going to win. And find a way to win.
Start back because your origin story is interesting, right?
Oh yeah.
And also speaks to the power of being surrounded by the people who can help you say yes, right? You didn't feel the world was on your side. You didn't feel the world was saying yes to you. Tell us a little bit about how you grew up and how you were able to transcend some of where you started to the beautiful successfulness you have now.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And hello, everybody. I didn't get to greet you. Hi. And I love you, even though if we never meet or if we always meet, I love you. So great to be here. So my parents, it starts with mom and dad. You know, we all start with our parents, right? And they were Jamaican immigrants from Kingston, Jamaica, and they came to this country. My mom cleaned bedpans at a hospital. My father worked the assembly line at a manufacturing facility, the midnight shift. And when I say clean, my mom cleaned bedpans. She did that. She turned patients over. She changed linens. She was like a candy striper might do. And she wasn't even a nurse's aide. It was below a nurse's aide. But she was proud of to be in America because she felt that America was where anything was possible. And so, but she said that in order to get anything, you have to have education. And she said, Daphne, whatever has your mind has you. If education has your mind, then you're going to be educated. If excellence has your mind, then you're going to be excellent. If that little silly boy Sean down the street has your mind, you're going to be a silly girl sitting next to Sean down the street because that's who has your mind. And so she taught me at school, at home. My sisters and brothers moved to Jamaica for several years. So I was like an only child for a while. And we lived in a small town named Phoenix, Illinois, one of the smallest and poorest towns, I should say, in Illinois. 1,500 people, no banks, no grocery stores, no post office, just a couple of liquor stores and some churches. So very much like a village or town. And so there wasn't a whole lot of hope either, and not a lot of role models either in a place like that, except my mom, who again cleaned bedpans, but what was in her mind was saying, Daphne, don't look at your current circumstance and say this is where the opportunity is. You've already got this covered. You're already here. The opportunity to win is up here. Look above where you're actually living and thinking, and that's where the opportunity was. So she was always teaching me to think higher than where I really was. So I did that. So I went to school. I skipped first grade because of her, because she taught me at home. And then I went on through school. I was bused to an all-white high school for high school. And when I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next with my, getting to college, I asked my high school counselor, like, you haven't come to talk to me about going to college. What's going on? And he's like, Daphne, Black girls like you don't really make it in college. You can try, but I don't think you're going to be successful. You won't make it in. If you do happen to make it in, you won't graduate. And if you do graduate, no one's going to hire you. And you know what, Donna, I didn't realize what he meant by no one's going to really hire you until much, much later, when I got to understand the history of this country and how the titans of America, the Carnegies, Rockefeller, Fords, Dodge brothers, whoever, they were not, didn't look like my skin, right? They were white men. And so my face did not look like I could own $100 million budget. My face did not look like I could be a CEO of a company. My face looked like I should take care of their children or I should cook their food. And so he said to me, nobody's going to hire you. That's why, because I don't look like the face of industry. And so I went to become a Women's Day magazine secretary, like he told me to do. He's paid the big bucks to be a counselor. He was counseling me to become a secretary. So I did that. And I knew how to take shorthand and typing and stuff. And so I became this secretary for the magazine, Women's Day magazine in Chicago. And I thought I had it going on. I mean, sure, I wanted to go to college, but here I was taking the train to downtown Chicago. Like I was a big girl after I graduated from high school. But then when I was settling into the job, doing the job, I was horrible at it. I was not clearly, I was misspelling words. He was doing dictation. My boss was dictating to me. I couldn't transcribe worth a darn very well. And I realized after all the yelling at me and ridiculing of my inability to be a good admin or secretary, I said, you know what? I'm not going to be a secretary anymore. I'm going to have a secretary. That is what happened. That was the beginning of history or herstory, as they say. And from there, I went to college. I graduated early. I got my bachelor's degree in 3 years instead of 4. I got my master's degree in 1 year instead of 2. But I think all this time, Donna, I was like running for my life. I was afraid that the high school counselor was behind me and was going to keep telling me, you can't make it, you can't make it. So I think I was running through college and running through my MBA so that he wouldn't catch up with me.
Let me ask you this. You have this, and by the way, hey, Jennifer Berman, how are you? Hey, Debbie Weiser, you have this amazing mom, right? Who sets you up and says, dream higher, think about where you can go. And then you have this college counselor who counters your mom and says, you can't do this. And by the way, we have this great Mayo doctor, Dr. Willis, who joined us with our Wow Girls one year. And he had a very similar story. Like he was told, listen, you will not be a doctor. You will not go to Yale. You will not work here. And yet he did it all, right? So where are the triggers in your brain that you can share with us that helps us overcome that negative self-talk or belief?
Yeah, I believe it just starts with you are already a winner. You have won. Just being born alive, you've won. And when you think about whether you go to high school, you go to grade school, you get a promotion in your job, you are winning and you're trying something for the first time. There's a saying that goes, when was the last time you did something for the first time? Many of us have done something for the first time and we were good at it. We may have suffered a little bit and failed, if you will, or learned the lesson, but then we got back up and we kept on going. And so we have to know that we have what it takes in order to win. We just have to make that decision that nothing is going to stop us. So my mom was, she was my role model. She was my coach in my ear. But she listened to him too. She's like, okay, Daphne, if he told you to go be that secretary, I guess he knows what he's talking about. And she didn't talk me out of it. And she said, go where you are being led. And so I had to realize that these guys sitting in the perimeter offices around me, the only difference between them and me was, number one, they were men. Number two, they had a college degree. Well, I'm never going to be a man, but I said I can sure enough get a college degree. And it was because of that I said, I'm gonna go forward. So I made that decision that I know that I can do it. My mom said I'm smart. I skipped first grade. I was a pom-pom girl. I was an achiever. And I think if you just set that mindset and make that decision that you're going to have a growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. And I have everybody, please go read the book called Mindset. Carol Dweck, I believe is her name. And she says you can make that choice. Either you can say, I have not learned everything. I have not achieved everything. I have not done everything. The pie is not fixed and small, it's infinite. Or you can say, I have learned everything. This brain not getting any bigger. My DNA is what it is. I'm not going to be able to change anything about my character or my capability. So I'm going to stop learning. I don't need any feedback from anybody. I know what I know. You have that decision to make, growth or fixed. And apparently I didn't know anything about growth mindset, but my mom didn't, and my mom didn't either, but she basically said, you better have a growth mindset, girl. And without saying those words, that's sort of what happened.
Right. So I'm gonna hold this up. I'll probably hold it. Win when they say you won't. And all of my marks here. You talk about a process. You have a chart. I don't know if sure you can call it up, but you divide the way we can move forward and trying to become and succeed in the way we would like to succeed between doing and becoming. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so let's start with doing and becoming. A lot of us are just doing things that society tells us to do. How many kids are we going to have? What should we wear to work? What kind of job should women have? So we end up just doing things, and we're not human doings, as the saying goes, we're human beings. And so how do we stop just doing what society expects or what others expect us to do and find where that passion is in our heart, find what our purpose is. And I believe our purpose is the intersection between what you're good at and what you have a passion for. If you love something and you're good at it, or you have an interest and a proclivity towards it, then that's where your purpose is. And so when you look at my model is called EDIT, E-D-I-T. And first of all, EDIT, just the word itself means to change. When you have a person who's helping you editing your book or editing a magazine article, they are your editor and they're helping to change your article or book for the better. But edit is also a framework. When I was writing code, I did end up finishing college, getting my master's degree, and I went to work for IBM. As an IBM systems engineer, I had to write code. What we now know, Donna, as apps, we call them apps on our phone. The real word is application. And so we had to write applications using RPG, COBOL, C++, whatever the language is. But the way to write the code is by using a framework called the Systems Development Lifecycle, SDLC. And it's like a recipe. You put 2 eggs in, you stir it, you put it with some flour and some water, you put it in the oven with some sugar, you come out with the cake. When we use the SDLC, you have a method to use that every time you do this methodology, you come out with an app or an application. It could be general ledger, it could be a payroll app, it could be a dating app, it could be a reservation app, whatever it is. Edit is basically the same thing. I got it from my experience as a programmer. So if you can take a program and improve it over time and build it and improve it, like our iOS right now is at version 16, that's an app. iOS is an app. And if it's at 16, it started at 1. If you can use an SDLC to go from 1 to 16, you can use my edit framework to go from version 1 of your life, version 1 of whatever you're doing, for you to become what you want. So when you use the word refresh, Donna, that's what this is about. This is about reimagining who it is that you can be, not necessarily doing what it is that society wants you to do. So envision is where it starts. It all starts in your mind. My mom says, Daphne, whoever has your mind has you. Watch the friends that you're hanging around with, because if your friends are not doing anything, their misery might want your company. So you have to envision in your mind who you are, what you want to be, what your gifts and graces are. And I said this in your Generation W, that Einstein says that everybody is a genius. Everybody is a genius. But if you measure a fish by how well it climbs a tree, that fish will think it's stupid for the rest of its life. And why? Because fish don't climb trees. Fish swim. Their superpower is to swim and to evade being caught by a bigger fish or being caught by a fisher person. And so everything that's in our mind is where it all starts. So envision your future, reimagine what it is that you want to become. And then after you envision that, then you got to put a plan together, because just having a vision with no plan, it's just a dream. And so you have to put something on paper. You got to write plans down and say, okay, in order for me to learn how to swim better, or learn how to swim at all, in order for me to learn how to be a better public speaker, in order for me to learn how to be a chef, whatever it is, my vision is to be a chef. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, your plan allows you to design an approach for how you're going to do just that. And it allows you to prepare yourself, prepare your mind, prepare your spirit, prepare your energy, prepare your friends, prepare your stakeholders, so that you get all the help that you need to do that. And then once you have your plan, and that plan, by the way, is risk adjusted, because nothing in life is perfect. So you have to say, what could go wrong with this plan? I may break a leg, or I may lose my job, or whatever the case may be. How do you plan for that? So it's a risk adjusted design. Then after you do that, then you go do it. You go and learn how to be a better speaker in public, or you go after that vice president job, because you wrote down your plan of how you're going to do it with the help of your mentors and your sponsors. So that's when you experience it. You get in there, and maybe you do something great, maybe you do some things wrong. You get feedback from the market, you get feedback from your boss, you get feedback from your family, you get feedback, and you don't take that feedback personally. You take it as information and say, okay, now I know I did that wrong. I know I won't do it that way again. Let me go back and change my plan, because my plan didn't give enough time for this effort, or I didn't think of it the right way. So you adjust your attitude, you adjust your activities, and you adjust your algorithm, if you want to be like a chat GPT. And so you experience that, and you iterate, you go back between your design and your plan, you sense and you respond, you go back and forth. But then when you're done, you have made progress, and you have now transformed. You are now at the T part of transformation, the T part of edit. And then you don't just change yourself. When you go into a room, all of a sudden that room lights up because of your presence. You not only learn and change yourself, you now have the ability to change your peers, change your company, change your department, because now you have become more of what you wanted to become, and now you can help other people do the same thing. So that's edit. And it's what I've learned. I learned pattern recognition when I was in school. I saw what people did to win. I saw what books they read. I saw who they hung out with. And it's okay to be a copycat. It's cool to be a copycat as long as the cat you're copying is cool. And so I copycatted what I saw people doing, and I learned that this is how you go from what's in your mind to actually doing it, to actually becoming it. And that's what it's about.
Wow. 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 That's a whole lot. Listen, let me just welcome all our geniuses who are here, including my mom, who figured out how to get on. She
hi, Mom.
persevered, and she is a winner, as everyone here, not only here on Facebook, but later on our podcast. I just want to say welcome to everybody. We're with the amazing Daphne Jones. Her latest accomplishment, Win When They Say You Won't, learned hard-earned effort actually in the boardrooms and offices of corporate America. And you still sit on some boards now, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I sit on 3 public boards. When I say public, meaning they trade on Wall Street, New York Stock Exchange boards, and they couldn't be more diverse. One is a services business. We provide the nation's hospitals, schools, clinics with doctors and nurses. So just imagine COVID. We were extremely busy during that time. So we do that. So that's one. The second company is a aerospace company. We make engines for some of the world's largest aerospace manufacturers. So Boeing, Airbus, et cetera. So wide body jets, narrow body jets, we do air engines. And then doors. Many people have heard of Masonite doors. And so I'm on the board of them. We are one of the 2 largest designers, manufacturers, and distributors of doors in the world.
Wow, that is very diverse. And public boards take a lot of time. They're really interesting. And I want to say hello to Vicki Zellen and invite all of our geniuses to ask questions. Every question's a good question. Questions create magic for others. So please, you can put it in the chat or on Facebook. I'm not sure who's monitoring Facebook for us today, but just put it up there. We'll get it, and then we'll put
Ask me anything.
Daphne, this is your chance to talk to Daphne. It's awesome. So, I picked out quite a few things, Daphne, in going through your book and reading it. And I love the part that says, know where you have been. It's like those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. I kind of felt that, but this idea of really doing a self-audit was very powerful in your actually advice to us.
Yeah, that's part of the first step. It's like if you want to take a trip somewhere, you have to know where you are, because you're going to have to put in your GPS, my location. And in my location, you have to then be able to say, this is where my destination is. And that's where you will end up transforming into. So you have to take an account of yourself. You have to take your temperature. You're kind of warm, take your temperature and see if you have a fever. Because until you understand where you are, you won't know what the remedy is. You won't know what it is that you need to do. So yeah, it's one of the things that I talk about in Envision is it's a setup for like, what makes you happy? What makes you unhappy? When are you at your best? Remember a time when you just killed it, you nailed it. And then when you remember that time, what was the circumstances? What role were you playing? Who'd you have around you? Just remember that, because we have remembrances of our good times, but a lot of times we always want to remember our bad times. We always want to remember, I was, married once and it didn't work. Well, guess again, find out what went wrong and then get married again. And so there's a way that you can look at yourself and decide, what are my values? What do I value? Do I value winning at all costs? Do I value loyalty? Do I value the Constitution? Do I value my Christianity? Do I value friendship? What do you value? And when you put together what you value, when you put that with what you love, what your purpose and your passion is, and then I have something in there called the SHIP model, SHIP. And that talks about, are you strategic or are you hands-on? hands-on really means tactical. Are you strategic? Are you hands-on? Are you an influential kind of person? That's the I in ship, and the P in ship is, are you people oriented? And so when you put all these things together, you can say, I know where I've been and I know where I am. And because of that, I know where I want to go. I know what I want to be and what I want to become. So that's really important to know where you are, because otherwise you don't have context to determine what your trajectory is going to be to know where you're going.
Wow. I'm really going to encourage people to ask questions, because it's just this unique opportunity to really interact with Daphne, and this information clearly pertains to a lot of us. One of the other things you said, which is you are not alone. And we all feel so lonely in this seeking of purpose, of finding success, wondering whether we can get there. And yet, and in that process, it does feel very lonely.
Yeah, it does. Whenever I do a talk, especially when it's live, like in person, I ask the people in front of me, raise your hand if you've ever been told that you will not win. And the numbers are either easily 75% and higher. I have been told that I will not win. And then I say, who told you that? And they either yell out, my counselor, my spouse, my boss. It's all these folks. And so I say to them, just what you said. I now want you to look around and realize you are not by yourself. Everyone, or at least most people, have felt the things that you're feeling. So now these imposter syndrome feelings, you got to first of all know, I am not crazy. I am not by myself. But now the question is, how do I get beyond that? How do I get beyond knowing that I'm not by myself? And it again gets back to the decision that you make. But yeah, you feel very much like you're by yourself, and all you got to do is reach out to one of your sisters. And I always say that shame on us if we don't help our own sisters get through a situation, because by ourselves we know a little, but together with everybody we know almost everything. And so know that you know a little by yourself, and you won't get anywhere by yourself. I mean, the pen that I write with, I didn't make this pen. The place that I live in, I didn't build it. I didn't do anything by myself except maybe think. But everything else that we have, we got it because somebody else helped us to achieve it. So I want people to know you're not by yourself, but you then have to reach out. The African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go really far, you got to go together. If you want people to have your back, to have your front, your sides, to have an elongated career, a career that lasts a long time, you got to go together. So, take that pride, take that pride and ball it up in a ball and throw that pride up really high. And don't be afraid to ask people, how did you do it? How did you feel? Go on LinkedIn, find people that are doing today what you want to do in 2 years, or that you may want to do today. Find their profile, follow them, and reach out to them. I tell you, there's not a person I can imagine that would not, number one, want to talk about themselves and how they did it. And everybody likes to say, oh, here's what I did. And then number two, who would not want to say, you know what, I see myself in you. Let me help you. Let me connect you with the right people. Let me give you some advice once a quarter. So find out that, know that you're not alone, and find that person who you believe can speak into your life. And I had friends that told me that my aspirations were too high. Daphne, you want to work for IBM? IBM is a white company. IBM is a white company. They're going to hurt your feelings. And they told me how high I could not go, how high I could not, ascend. And what did I do, Donna? I got me some new friends. I got new friends.
Because your mother told you, right? She said their misery might want company. Their short-sightedness might want company.
Yes, and their misery might want my company, and whoever has my mind has me. So if they have my mind to say that I can achieve, then I'm gonna be right down there with them. And so I had to make sure. People are so into proximity. Don't let proximity fool you. Somebody that you just sit right next to, they're sitting right here on your shoulder, right next to you. And you tell them all your business. You tell them everything, your deepest secrets, your fears. but they're not your friend. They just happen to be sitting next to you, right? And so don't let proximity control you. Control your proximity and make sure that you manage your friendships and manage your
I
relationships.
love that. I love that. We do so much work with teen girls, and it's hard because, developmentally, where are you when you're 16, 15, 14? And you want to just say, pick your friends wisely, right? And I love that thing. Don't let proximity control you. Yeah. You control proximity. That's powerful. Jennifer asks, when you were on your journey, how did you reconcile that most of your peers did not look like you? And you've raised this a couple of times, and I actually have a question to follow up with this. And how did that help you? And how did that help propel you forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. And I grew up in an all Black neighborhood, so my people look like me there. Then I was bused to an all white high school. So we were bused from the Black neighborhood. They bused us to Dalton, Illinois. And so I started getting accustomed to the fact that, oh, there are white people in this world. You start getting used to being one of a few, right? So that you get conditioned after a while. And then you go to Women's Day magazine, and it was me and another Black woman who were secretaries for the editor and the associate editor. I was for the associate editor. And so you just get used to realizing that this Black community called Phoenix, Illinois is not really what the United States is really like. And so you get accustomed to being the only one. So that is just kind of what happens. Or you get used to being in the minority, because minority is a real thing. And then I went to IBM, and yeah, I didn't know, first of all, that I was getting into STEM, because if I had known that I was getting into a STEM, I probably would have fainted and then quit, because STEM was not a thing. To think that I was science, technology, engineering, math, me, this Black girl from Phoenix, Illinois. So I, first of all, didn't know I was, joining IBM to me did not mean STEM. I just don't know what I was thinking, but I just didn't know. And so, but I go into the office, and yeah, there are a few women in there, but there were no Black women that were coming up to be engineers. And I just had to realize, because of my background, I was used to being the only one. So winning has no color for me. I just realized, if you are winning, I'm going to see what you're doing and I'm going to copy it. So I wore pinstripe suits. I wore wingtip pumps that were burgundy, like all the men wore. And then I come to find out that even though I wore what they wore, I wasn't treated like they were treated. I was still treated differently. I was treated like a Black girl. I was treated like
that's
somebody.
Interesting, because I did want to bring that up. Yeah. You said you do have a whole chapter on winning while Black.
Yes.
And I think this open conversation, and Jen, thank you for asking, is important for Black women, clearly, to know they are not alone. But I think it's important for all people to understand how other people, who they may not have as much exposure to, feel, and what their experience is, and how do you become a part of their life that helps broaden not only the relationship, right, but the view and perspective we all have. And that's why I think these conversations are so important. So tell us a little bit about why specifically you dug in there.
Well, again, my mom just basically said, wherever the opportunity is, you got to go up there. So she put this resilience in me. And I was a precocious kid. My Uncle Henry said he said, because I was always arguing. I'm like, if this is the case, then why is that way? I was always looking for congruent, alignment and whatnot. And he said, Daphne, you're going to make a great liar one day. And what he meant was lawyer, because he called lawyers liars. You're going to make a great liar. And so I was just, stubborn and precocious. And so I realized that I have to learn from these situations. These people are in here not because their parents were rich. They are working their butts off. They figured out what it takes to win. And the woman is working and a man is working. I just happen to be a Black woman. And so how do what does winning look like? And I had to understand, what does that look like? So I hung in there and realized that everybody is different. And it was around looking at patterns. And I said that my mom told me that I have to look above myself. So, oh my God, because right now I'm down here, the only Black person in this IBM office. I'm really looking above myself to look up here. where I'm going to have to win. And so you have to learn all you can from everybody that you can, regardless of what color they are, what religion they are, because there's something that you can learn from them. And I had to learn how to freaking win. And I was smart. I was a smart girl. And so I said, nothing is going to be so big and so bodacious that I'm not going to be able to beat it. But trust me, I got laid off from IBM. They hurt my feelings. My dream company laid me off. And so I didn't always come out on top every single time, but I had to, when I fell down, I had to get back up, and I had to act like I had no choice but to win.
Right. So let me just ask you this. And now everybody's with their questions. So we're just going to roll with this really quick. By the way, I just want to say part of that chapter is your thoughts on authenticity versus
assimilation. Yeah.
And I found that riveting in so many ways, because all of us have to face going into cultures. And often they say, be who you are when you are, but you were really strategic and thoughtful. It said you are joining a culture, so you have to determine, and in order to be a good team and win, you need to be in a winning culture that's inclusive, which means everybody can't be individually themselves all the time. Otherwise, you can't build a team culture. I just thought it was so great. But let's go to Madison here, because she says, how would you deal with office politics and coworkers who are trying to minimize your accomplishments? So those are those, the energy suckers.
Yeah. So first of all, be clear on what winning is. So I am going to get into pie, if you don't mind. I'll start with pie. Doing your job and only doing your job is necessary, but it is not sufficient. So know what winning is. So there's Harvey Coleman wrote a book, and I talk about him in my book, called Organization Games Revealed. It is a game. Every situation you're in, whether it's politics, whether it's at basketball, whether you're learning how to swim, you got to understand there's rules of engagement, rules of the game. So he wrote this book, and he talked about pie. Performance is the P in pie. So your question about, somebody's trying to steal your joy, tap your energy, understand, first of all, no matter where you are, what does winning look like? What does your boss need to achieve in order for her or him to be a winner? And then what do you have to do to help your boss be a winner? You are there to make your boss look great while you make yourself look great at the same time. So understand performance. What is the goal? Is it a quota? Is it market share? Is it cost reduction? Is it cycle time improvement? Is it quality? Whatever the winning is, understand that P in performance and do it. The next thing is I. The I in pie is your image. That is your brand. So your brand is reflective of how do you show up? And I think, Donna, you said that, how do you show up every day? If you are kind and you're funny and you're witty and you're giving to others, you're always creative, you're always on time, or you're early into meetings, you always give people credit for what they've done, you kind of maybe minimize yourself, not to deprecate yourself, but to say, it's not only me, it's the team. If you are a team player, if you're collaborative, that is a good image to have. But if you are the other side, you're always late, you're always complaining. You know what? Daphne's coming to a meeting. Oh my God. In fact, I'm gonna call in sick tomorrow if she's gonna show up at this meeting, because she's mean, she's always complaining, she blames everybody else for her situation. That is that person's image. So your image needs to be really good. The E in pie is your exposure. Who knows you and who do you know? Exposure is where your promotion comes from. Your promotion comes when somebody above you pulls you up. You can't promote yourself in terms of to get to a new job level. That's right. You have to be pulled. And so when you document your performance, Let your boss know every month, every quarter, whatever you feel is appropriate time frame, and say, here's what I've done. Here's how it helped move the needle for the company's objectives or your boss's objectives. And then make sure that you have that image around you that says, I am collaborative. I have a good head for business. I am empathetic. I have a good heart, and I do have guts to challenge the status quo. You don't let anybody else steal your joy. Do your performance, have the right image, and then get to know the right people in your organization that can pull you up. You need mentors around you, you need sponsors around you, and they will know the real you. Whoever you are, they will know who you are, and they will be who will lift you up, and you take to them some challenges that you may
Right,
be.
and that leads us to, and we're running out of time here, as
Okay.
Olivia Landry. She says, I'm so happy you're discussing this. I'm literally in tears. We don't want to make you cry.
Oh, no.
I've struggled with leaning in. I'm in senior leadership. I can't find a mentor who understands and can guide me through career and work challenges. I hope we can have a recording of this, and we will. We will post it, and I'm sure that we can follow up. I want to thank Vicki Zellen, actually, for your question on IT. And maybe if we can send that to you, we can get you to send her an email. She's
Okay.
concerned if that's okay, right?
Yeah, that's
I just
fine.
want to put up your last, I have two things here. I want to put up your last summary graphic, which is when they say you win, when they say you won't. You came up with 3 things that we should take away.
Okay.
Quickly.
All right. So first of all, you are going to get feedback from the market. And I'm going to start from the bottom. Act like a product and think like a product manager. The reason that is important is if you think about your phone is a product. We have a lot in common with our phone. We have a lot in common with our Tesla car or with our Sub-Zero refrigerator. Number one, there's a market. There's somebody out there, your boss, your organization, who loves what you do, and you deliver value to them. So you have a market. Products have a market. This iPhone has competition. You have competition. This iPhone has Samsung. Home Depot has Lowe's. Pepsi has Coke. You have competition. Remember that there's somebody behind you who wants your job. Number 3, this product has value and it has a price. If your value is going to be lower, is going to be less than your price is 100, but your value is only 50, you're not going to be in that job very long because you're too expensive. You want to have your value be higher than your price. And that's why if this phone was $12,000, I wouldn't buy it because the value isn't there for me. So make sure, like a product, you also improve yourself. This is on iOS 16. Find yourself the way to improve yourself, and don't expire like a carton of milk. Don't have a use by date. Don't have your skills be old and irrelevant. And so you want to think like a product because products always improve themselves. That's number 1.
And then you go to the learning, right?
Everybody. And so learn all you can from everybody that you can. We spoke about that. Your market will teach you a lot. Your market will tell you, and that's part of number 1 too. Your market will give you feedback. They'll give you feedback. I hate your product. I love your product. And find a way to take it strategically and use it as data to say, okay, what? They didn't like that. I'm going to try another thing. But you never quit. You never cry. You never, stomp your feet. You find a way to win and change your algorithm, change your attitude, change your mindset, and you will find a way to win.
All right, and that's fantastic. We have a closing video for you, and then a couple of comments. Ms. Landry, I got you. Thank you. Of course, we have your organization. Stay on them. I think you have some great advice here from Daphne about continuing to find that person who can be a champion, sponsor, and a supporter of you. This was the closing of her workshop at Generation W. I just think it's fantastic. So Sherry, if we can roll that would be great. Hang with us.
So never accept no. Never be satisfied with the status quo. If there are followers, I want you to lead. If there is hunger, I want you to feed it. If there is empty land, I want you to seed it. If there is a positive word, I hope you'll say it. If there's a negative thought, please don't repeat it. If there is a win, I want you to go after it. If there is prosperity, I hope you'll have it. If there's a life, you've got to live it. And if there's wisdom, I pray you receive it. Always find a way to win.
Wow, that's so
It's cool.
beautiful and so elegant. Let me just say this. I hope all of you, and Vicky Zellen, I hope I still have your email. Make sure I have it. I want to get Daphne an answer to your question because I think it's really important as well. But I want to say thank you, Daphne. Here are the notes I took. This is all about reimagining what you can be. And if we reimagine, it means we can imagine in the first place. So it's in us, right? To take our next steps to wherever we think we can win. I love your mother. Just give her credit here, right? Whomever has your mind has you. By ourselves, we know a little. Together, we know almost everything. Hey, I'm a team sport athlete, right? Can't get that. I can't win on our own. And I also love this one. I said it before. Don't let proximity control you. You control proximity. Let me just say this, Daphne, I'm so appreciative. It's been a great season and you have wrapped it up for Refresh. We love our community, all of you, whether we're meeting you for the first time today, whether you've been with the whole way. Joy Kurtz, we're going to give you an award. She's with us every single week, always an active and engaging participant. So I want to thank all our guests.
And follow me.
I'm sorry?
Follow me on Daphne Jones Official.
We will get there. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And it's also been in the chat, Daphne Jones Official. I want to thank all who showed up, always who are all in. I say, Daphne, thank you for helping us understand how we can all win. A special thank you to the Generation W team, and especially our producers, Sherry Levin and Katie Graham, who are outstanding in their commitment to creating a refreshing experience for all of us, including Bridget, Ariel, Tracy, and I'm glad our interns joined us today. What a great learning session for all of us. We wish all of you a great summer. We'll be back on September 6th. Please put it on your calendars, September 6th. We'll be sending you some emails and some communication during the summer so that we can remain in touch with our schedule of our upcoming guests. And if you have any ideas or requests, you know we're all about being responsive and learning from you on what you would like to learn more about. Nikki Glover, I know you'll definitely do that. Please let us know at info@genwnow.com. info@genwnow.com. So then everybody, Daphne, our sincerest thank you, but to everyone, thank you and have happy days. Be refreshed. Take care.
Bye, guys.